Hello everyone, Giltar here with an action figure review. This time we'll be looking at the TakaraTomy Transformers Masterpiece number 14 Alert, otherwise known as Red Alert. Now Alert here was released in late November and early December of 2012. The manufacturer's suggested retail price is 5,800 yen, or roughly $60 American at current exchange rates. Now the original mold for this masterpiece figure was or rather is the MP12 Lambor figure, otherwise known as Sideswipe. The vehicle alternate mode is fully licensed by Lamborghini, and the model of the car is the Countach LP500S. Now the differences between Alert and Lambor, aside from the paint schemes, are in Alert's case, retooled shoulders, head sculpt, and circular sculpted details on the front of the collar in robot form. Now as far as scale goes, it's roughly 1/30th scale in vehicle mode. However, Transformers doesn't often go into a strict scale design for toy lines as a whole. There have been a few lines that actually did adhere to such a scale consistency. For example, Binaltech and the non-Japanese version alternators used a 1/24th scale. Alternity uses a 1/32 scale. Now, the thing about Lambor and Sideswipe, or Alert and Red Alert, is that these are relatively new Masterpiece figures. Basically from about Masterpiece 10 or the second version of the Masterpiece Convoy or Optimus Prime. From that point onward, it seems like TakaraTomy's designers are looking to make a consistent scale for their figures. So what that means is that Lambor and Red Alert, or Alert rather, will scale properly with Optimus Prime. Masterpiece 10, that version. I don't have that figure handy to do a scale comparison, and I'll do that actually in the next part of the video, in which I'll show the robot form. But just to know, again, there is a rough scale that this figure is designed for. Now, taking a look at the vehicle mode, as far as I'm concerned, as well as most other people who have this figure, it's basically one of the best looking Transformer vehicle forms to date. The big reason for that essentially is TakaraTomy has acquired the license to use the Countach design. That basically guarantees vehicle accuracy in this toy form, and for all intents and purposes, this is basically a replica of the car in basically, again, 1/30th scale. Now the paint scheme is something that I really like. I prefer the red and white fire department or chief of fire department sort of deco over the basically, red and a little bit of black in Lambor. That's one of the reasons why I bought this iteration of the Masterpiece mold. Now, the paint application is mostly good. There are a few spots where the white painted areas have a bit of overspray. You have to look close under certain lighting, but you will see that there are little bubbles or bumps in the paint application where, again, there was overspray of paint and more paint than was required accumulated. There's also a couple of spots where the white paint just wasn't applied very well, and it can scratch off easily. Mainly the windowed and door frame areas of the car where it's basically painted over translucent plastic. Now, this is a problem for me. I'm going to say this right now. The quality control issues reported by collectors for both Lambor and Alert, as far as I'm concerned, is really inexcusable. I mean, this is a premium product which is being sold for a premium price. Such poor quality control for paint application is something that should not happen. It should have never gotten through the production facilities and basically be shipped out to retailers and people who sell these and people who direct order these. It shouldn't have never been done. It's pretty much unprecedented. I mean, in the previous Masterpiece figures, there have been quality control issues in terms of structural design, perhaps, and that's a flaw in design. But in the actual production stage of the manufacturing of these figures, of these products, I can't recall any widespread issues that have plagued any other Masterpiece figure that has been comparable to what we've seen in Lambor and Alert. And that is something that was a big factor in my hesitation and my reluctance in purchasing this figure. Like, I didn't buy this until after Christmas of 2012. You know, basically almost 3 months after it was originally released is when I purchased this figure. And again, the large reason why I took so long to buy it was because of the production issues, the quality control issues. Now, the accessories are few but satisfactory. Alert and Lambor are both fairly straightforward characters. They didn't have a lot of accessories to go with them. Both of them have a laser gun and a rocket launcher. As you see here, the laser gun is in all red plastic. The rocket launcher is in red and silver painted plastic. They can be connected, as I have them here, and they can also peg on top of the vehicle form, on top of the light bar, to basically be kind of a, I guess, roof-mounted weapon turret type of deal. I'm not a big fan of the look, but I don't dislike it, and sometimes I might peg it in, even if I have it on the shelf on display. I know some people out there are really not a fan of it at all. Some people are really harshly criticizing that part of the figure. All I can say about that is it's an optional aspect. You don't have to peg it in if you don't want to. And personally, I'm actually more of the mind of I like the fact that we have the option to peg it in, and you know, choosing whether or not to do it is up to me, rather than not even having the option in the first place. The second or third accessory here is the what's called the electric sparks or electric head sparks, which references an episode of the Transformers cartoon where Red Alert kind of goes crazy, and the character has these sparks going about its head, basically showing that there's a bit of, I guess, craziness going on, and that he or it is not in control. Now, what I'm going to move on to next is the robot mode. Now, I'm not going to transform the figure on camera. I'm basically going to just transition to that next point. Next up is robot mode. Now, with the robot mode, much like the alternate mode, I think it's simply fantastic. I describe it as something being true to the cartoon model design with artistic deviations in order to make it as aesthetically pleasing as it can be in three-dimensional form. And keep in mind, this is a transforming toy. This is not a sculpture. This is not a statue where you can just simply basically make it look great without having to consider engineering and design considerations for making it also become a vehicle. So I think it's a really great accomplishment what we see here from TakaraTomy. And I think that's largely due to not only the sculpt of the figure, but also the transformation. The transformation design is wonderfully satisfying. It is complex enough to be appreciated, I think, by any transformation aficionado like myself. But it's intuitive, it's efficient, it doesn't do anything unnecessary, it's not overly complex for the sake of complexity. The steps in transformation make sense. One step to the next is largely, as I said, intuitive, at least in my experience with the toy. Everything seems to fall in place. And there's nothing in it that doesn't make sense. There's nothing in the transformation that made me feel concerned because of very low tolerances in moving of parts. Everything was smooth. And at the same time, the joints are tight. They're not loose at all. And overall, it's just a really great transition from vehicle to humanoid robot form. Now, articulation, that's another consideration as well. And fortunately, once again, the figure exceeds my expectations. Starting with the neck, it is a swivel hinge joint. We have swivel hinge shoulders, double hinged elbows, wrist swivels. Also, the fingers, they are articulated, but as a single unit. There is no individual finger articulation. The swivel hinge hips are there. We have thigh rotation. We have a swivel waist. We also have a single jointed knee, but it has a really great range of motion. It goes beyond 90 degrees easily. Finally, we have hinged ankles with both forward and back as well as side-to-side movement to allow the bottom of the feet to be flat in a wide variety of stances. Combined with the great look of the sculpt, it's a really great looking toy to be on anybody's display shelf. Now overall, for my final thoughts on this, my pros and cons, starting off with the cons, the only con I have, honestly, is poor quality control. The paint application really didn't need to be as bad as it is. And even though mine is relatively minor in the few spots I've noticed quality control issues, it still is beyond what I think is acceptable for a premium product that one must pay a premium price for. As stated in the first part of the video, it is something that normally runs 5,800 yen. That's $60 American right now. And originally, when it was released through online American retailers, it was priced at about between $80 and $85, and that's without shipping. And right now, on the secondary market, where pretty much it's the only place you can find it, sellers on sites like eBay are charging $100 or more for it, not including the shipping fee. So it's definitely not a cheap figure to have or to acquire. And to add to that, it seems like you're going to be playing, you're going to be gambling. You're risking when you buy this thing whether or not it will have some physical or visual defects with the paint at least. So those, that is rather my one major, even though it's the only con, it's a significant con for this product. The pros, however, are numerous, and it really helps make up for the issue with poor quality control. First of all, the visual appearance of the figure in both robot and vehicle modes, just great. I mean, it's a licensed Countach, so in car form, car nuts, car enthusiasts can really appreciate it. In robot form, fans of the character design from the cartoon show can really appreciate it. The transition point from vehicle to robot or vice versa, the transformation design, that's a really great part of the product, I think. It's just a really fun part of this toy as far as I'm concerned. I really enjoy transforming it. It's the one thing I do with this figure more than any other figure I have as far as Transformers, and especially Transformers Masterpiece figures. For example, I have MP10, the second version of Optimus Prime in Masterpiece form, and that again is a really well designed, a really great looking figure, and I transformed that a lot. But not as much as Alert here. Alert is just a really fun toy to pick up, transform, and put it back down. The accessories are definitely appropriate. The rocket launcher that you can put on the shoulder, the laser gun, they're true to the source material. The electric head sparks are a fun little nod to a bit of the character's history in the cartoon, and overall I really recommend this toy. However, as I mentioned previously, it is something expensive because it's no longer available through retailers. I believe the inventory of all major online retailers, it's depleted. The only place I can find it online is through things like eBay, basically the secondary market, and the prices are really inflated. If you do get a chance to pick this up for $80 or less, I definitely recommend it. Above 80, definitely above $100. As good as this figure is, as much as I enjoy it, and as much as I recommend it, I can't really say that I would tell people to buy it for more than $100. It's really good, but I don't know if it's worth that much money. And to be honest, we might be able to see a future production run for Lambor or Red Alert or both. I do know that there is an exclusive repaint of this mold that is basically priced at the same amount, about $80 or so, through places like Big Bad Toy Store. It is for the color scheme of the character of Tiger Track, so it's a largely yellow-dominated color scheme, very similar to Sunstreak. So if you like the mold, and if you don't mind, or at least like the yellow-dominated color scheme, then definitely I would say get the Tiger Track figure. But again, just be wary and be aware that you might run into some quality control issues with the paint application. So that's it for the review. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys got something out of it. Have a great day, and I'll see you at the next video.